Okay, good morning and hi everyone. Welcome to my talk on real-time made easy. .NET Aspire meets Azure SignalR. So my name is Kamilla Nyborg Gregertsen and I'm a senior software engineer at SoPasteria, where I started in September. And I'm a backend developer with close to 15 years of experience, primarily with .NET and Azure. What we're going to go through today is we're going to have a look at why real-time systems matter. We're going to have a look at what .NET Aspire and Azure SignalR is and how they work together. I'm going to run a demo, and then we're going to have a brief look at deployment considerations for Aspire applications. So think about the apps that you use every day. It could be Facebook, live dashboards, Teams, etc. And none of us would tolerate having to click on refresh every time we want an update. We simply want things to update instantly. So there are a lot of reasons to go for real-time systems. It could be like coordination, efficiency, and user experience. And it's not just about comfort, because real-time experiences drive engagement and can be a true differentiating factor for products. But here's the problem. Building real-time systems has traditionally been complicated. You need to understand the WebSockets protocol, scaling across servers, sticky sessions, backplanes, retry functionality, etc. It's a lot of groundwork for something users simply expect to work. But the good news is that with the right tools, it doesn't have to be complicated. And that's what today's talk is about, how .NET Aspire and Azure SignalR can work together to make real-time communication cloud-based, scalable, and surprisingly simple. So Azure SignalR simplifies the process of adding real-time functionality to your apps, abstracting away the complexity of underlying transport methods, fallback mechanisms, and scaling. And .NET Aspire helps you build distributed apps in .NET more easy. It abstracts away the work of setting up everything and configuring the services and the wiring of the application. So SignalR provides an abstraction over many techniques used for building real-time web applications. WebSockets is the optimal and preferred transportation method, but other methods like server-sent events and long polling are used when no other options are available. And in SignalR, a hub is a core component that exposes a set of methods that a client can use, and we will have a closer look at a hub during the demo phase. So the fully managed Azure SignalR service simplifies development by offloading infrastructure concerns and reducing hosting costs. It's built to scale effortlessly to millions of concurrent connections while offering enterprise-grade security and compliance through Azure. .NET Aspire provides a curated set of tools, templates, and NuGet packages that make it easy to build distributed applications with minimal setup. So think of it kind of like a plug-and-play type of framework that's for integrating services like what we're going to look at today, Azure SignalR, Postgres, and more, without needing to manually configure ports, connection strings, or service dependencies. So Aspire handles all the wiring and configuration for you, so you can focus on writing code and not on the infrastructure part. Okay, we're going into the demo time. I'm just going to present a little bit on what we're going to look at. So we're going to use the Aspire Starter application that consists of a Blazor frontend and a .NET backend. And we will, of course, also use the Azure SignalR service. So the flow of the communication with the Azure SignalR service will be that the client initiates the connection to the backend. The backend negotiates with Azure SignalR service and redirects the client. And from there on out, the client will communicate directly with Azure SignalR service. Okay, to the most exciting part then. See if I can get this to work. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to use Visual Studio tools more extensively today. We're going to use the Aspire Starter application. We're going to name it Aspire SignalR app, for example. And we're going to use the latest .NET Aspire version, which is 9.5. Okay, so let's see if it's the size is big enough for everyone sitting at the back. So, okay. So we're going to have a look at the project that the Aspire application has added first. As you can see, we have the conventional project, that is the API service, and the web project as well. And those most of us are familiar with. So the .web is the Blazor project and front end, and the API service is the .NET API. And in addition, we have the app host project and service defaults. And app host, you can see that is the startup project of the Aspire application, and it's also responsible for orchestration of the application. So if we open that one and go into the app host CS file, where the orchestration has been made for the existing projects, we can see that there's a distributed application builder that is being created in the beginning. And we're adding a project here, which is the API service. We're using add project method for that, and we're adding HTTP health checks. On the next line here, we can see that we're adding the web front-end project, and we're using external HTTP endpoints and a reference to the API service. So if we take a closer look at both of these projects, they're using a name. So the API service has the API service name, and it's used for service discovery in .NET Aspire, which we will have a closer look at eventually. But it's worth noting at this moment what these strings are. And since the the front-end project has a reference to the API, we're using the method with reference to the API service, and we're also doing a wait for so that the front-end project will wait with starting up until the back-end project, the API service, is ready. Okay, that's all that has been done in app host. And if we go into just one of the existing projects, we can see that there is something that is in common in traditional projects either. We have the add service defaults extension methods. So if we're, oops, I was not going to start that. If we're going to the service defaults of that one, it's using this extension methods. And it will set up everything that the project needs to use the functionality in Aspire, which is the really nice thing about it. It will configure open telemetry, add the default health checks, and it will add the magic of .NET Aspire, which is the service discovery functionality, both to the HTTP client as well. So in both program CS files of the API service and the web, there you will find this command that has been added. Okay, but that's the basic project. So what we're going to do is to build a little bit on this because we want the SignalR service into it as well. So we're going to add a new dependency for that. In Visual Studio, there is a nice add.NET Aspire package that you can use as well. that I use a lot for this. It's a bit faster than typing everything, but we do want the Aspire hosting Azure SignalR package installed in the app host project. So when we have installed that, we have something new available on the builder. We can finally start using the SignalR service. The IntelliSense is starting, okay, but that's okay. I have some tools I can use, but this is like the easiest part you can use, add SignalR to your solution. You can just do builder, add Azure SignalR, and give it a service discovery name. And if I start this, it will actually set it up in Azure for you. Like, how much easier can it get than that? I don't know. But since we don't have that much time today, and I don't want to stand here and wait for 5 minutes for that service to be set up, and I guess neither do you. I will use an existing one. I'm just going to show you a couple of other ways that you can add the Azure SignalR service. You can run as emulator on it, but then it has to be in serverless mode, which is a bit different from how we're implementing it today. So we're not going to do that. Also, for you guys who are infrastructure people, you can actually configure the Azure SignalR service here, like with C# code. That's pretty awesome as well, in my opinion. But yeah, we're going to connect to the existing SignalR. And then we need some parameters that we're going to add to app settings. I'm just going to put that in there. We have the SignalR name, and we have the SignalR resource group, as we can see reflected in this. It wants, when we're adding it, we're still doing the add Azure SignalR with a name as existing, and we're using the name of the SignalR service and the resource group name. Yeah, so that's all it needs to use an existing one. And as you have seen before, we're going to use with reference to SignalR, and we're going to wait for it to start up, because it's kind of annoying if everything is starting and it wasn't actually ready. So that's all the configuration that we need on the app host side. And we're going to go into the API service as well and do some changes here. So we do have the service defaults already, which is nice for the Aspire application. But we're going to add a new NuGet package to be able to use SignalR functionality. So we're just going to use Microsoft Azure SignalR, installing that one. Yeah, so then we can start adding stuff into the builder services for SignalR. We're going to use the add named Azure SignalR. So if we go back into the app host, or maybe we remember the name already, but at least the name that we use for service discovery, which was SignalR, we have to use the same one here, because how Aspire will add that reference to the solution is that it will inject an environment variable for the SignalR service, which will be connection strings underscore and the name, which was SignalR. And the named Azure SignalR will look for the environment variable, starting with connection strings underscore and the name I give in at this point. So that's that setup. We're going to add a hub as well, as we talked about. We need a hub to expose the methods that we can use in SignalR Hub. So we're just adding a folder for that, and we're going to add a chat hub. It's a quite basic demo, but it does serve its purpose just for showing how fast you can set up a SignalR service. So we're going to add the chat hub class on this. The IntelliSense isn't working today. I'm just going to use it. Okay. So the chat hub, it exposes two methods, which is join chat, and we have send message as well. And when we go into either of those, an effect will happen. In this case, we do, on both methods, we do client all send async. That means that all the clients that have subscribed to SignalR will receive this message with the method receive message. So in the send message method, we will see that it will send the nickname, message, and the timestamp. And that's, yeah, we do have to do one more thing on program CS. We actually have to add the hub to the app. So we're going to do the app, map hub, and we're going to add the chat hub here, like so, and we're going to tell it to tell the clients to use this endpoint, which is /chat. So that's the changes that we have on the API service. Then everything should be set up and ready for the hub. And we, of course, want to make some changes to the the front end as well. We want to do just going to do some quick changes to the app CSS file, just so it doesn't look too basic. We don't have to look that close into that. I'm not a front-end person. Not going to say that. And we are going to make some changes. We're going to add a page, actually. First, we should add the NuGet package that we need for SignalR on the client as well. Sorry. Okay. So we're adding the Azure SignalR client to this one, installing it. Okay, here's that. And we're going to add a page that is a Razor component, just containing the chat room functionality. Just replacing all of this with what I have here. And then I'm just going to do a little change to home as well. We're going to look really fast into how the chat client is set up. Because when we're doing the uninitialized, we are going to initialize the hub connection at that point, and we're going to subscribe to what you saw from the hub. We are going to subscribe to receive message method. And when we do that, we add the message to a list of messages, which is just displayed in the chat, basically. And we also have an effect that happens when the user is like sending a message. We're doing a send async, so we're sending a message to SignalR using the send message method, and we're sending in some input about the user, the username, and the message, and the time. So that's all of that set up. I think everything should be ready for launching the demo. So let's see if I did any mistakes. Okay, no build errors at least. It's always the most exciting part, isn't it? Just to see if it will work. Okay, so Aspire starts like with, I have that problem. Okay, so since I thought something like this could happen, I have a copy of the solution, which I have tested and worked yesterday. So, yeah, you know how it is. The demo goes. And some laptop permissions, actually, which is kind of annoying. Yeah, so we can see that everything is starting to boot up here, which is nice. we had SignalR service, which was just using an existing Azure SignalR service. And that was the first thing, as we remember, in the order that it's being started up. And then the API service, and then the front end. And we can actually see that from the start time of the applications as well. And we can see that we have a couple of URLs per application here. And yeah, if we go into the details of each of these, we can see what I described with the service discovery part as well. Because I said that it injected some environment variables, right? So we're going to go into this and have a look at the one I said about SignalR, connection strings _ double underscore actually, SignalR, which is injected into the API service since we used reference. And on the front end part, we have the services API service. That's the way applications environment variables are injected into other applications, just so you know. So it uses services, and the mid thing here is the service discovery name. Okay, let's pull up the chat tab and see if that works. Could be some more fun issues going on here. You never know. Okay, so I'm just pulling up 2 of these. This would help me, that would be nice. Yeah, we're doing a little side-by-side stuff here. So we have 2 chat rooms side by side. And when I join with my username, it will say that in other chat as well. And we can have some other person joining here. And this is actually just SignalR sending messages to each of the subscribing clients. So you can see that we can just go on and chat with this every day. But it's a simple demo, and it doesn't give like much more added value looking at this. But it does show that SignalR is working and that we can communicate with other clients in an unauthenticated environment, of course. So don't do that at home, but you know that. Yeah, so that's that part. We're going to have a look at the Aspire dashboard as well. So if we go into console, we get the console logs, and we can pick any of the services and get just logs for that. And we can go into structured logs as well, which has the same, just structured way. But the one that gives the most value for me as a developer is like going into the traces, because then we can actually see how the requests are flowing through the Aspire application. And in this case, we can actually see the negotiate part that I talked about before we started the demo. The client will start with communicating with the backend service, and the backend service will negotiate with the Azure SignalR service. And from there on out, the client will communicate directly with the SignalR service, which we can see is happening here. So we're posting to the chat negotiate endpoint on the API service. And from there on out, it goes directly to the SignalR service. I can recognize that name because I've seen it a couple of times while preparing the demo. Yeah. And then the last part I want to show off the Aspire dashboard is metrics, which is very useful for debugging purposes or just looking at performance. So you can have a look at the requests that are like the connections that we have in the system. We can see the duration of each request of the connections. And we can have a look at active requests at each point, number of exceptions, like stuff you're used to looking at in App Insights. Yeah, that's all I wanted to show with this part. We're disconnecting the demo. Yeah, so let's go into presenter mode again. Last part is deployment considerations. So there are several ways to deploy your Aspire applications. It all depends on your workflow and target environment. So Visual Studio offers like the user-friendly publish. We're usually not using that for production environments. So we have the Aspire CLI, which is the newest one. And I can recommend using if you're starting up with Aspire from here on out. But we also have the AZD Azure Developer CLI that can be used with a conventional like AZD init and up to get everything up and running. And for those of you who use Kubernetes, there is also like a newer tool that is focused on just that, and that is the Aspirate. And you just use that with Aspirate init and generate. So yeah, it's also possible to like just get the raw bicep templates and everything for running it from a pipeline. So it's really like an easy way to get everything up and running in your Azure environment. Okay. So users expect real-time experiences. And typically, real-time experiences can be complicated both to build and to scale up, actually. So with .NET Aspire and Azure SignalR, it becomes easy. There's minimal setup, built-in observability, and cloud scalability. So I would recommend that you try these tools next time you launch your new project, and I think you'll be surprised by how easy you can get something powerful up and running. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kamilla.